This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Good evening. Even his fiercest critics are deploring the police crackdown on Baba Ramdev's Ram Leela protest rally. In a midnight swoop, of course, the Delhi police came in and forced an exit. Why did a government that was initially laying out the red carpet for Baba Ramdev then decide to forcibly exit him and his supporters? Why does Baba Ramdev have the UPA in a twist? Is the UPA now, in a sense, to borrow a phrase from Baba Ramdev's yoga classes, waiting to exhale? On the program today and over the next 2 hours, we look at whether the UPA's inept handling of the Ramdev situation has made the man a hero and united the opposition against a beleaguered UPA. All that and more with special guests and the key players. But first, let's take a look at the headlines on this big story with big political
Even
implications.
Baba Ramdev's critics say they deplore the use of police force to evict him and his supporters. From cajoling the Baba to coercing his exit, has the UPA turned Ramdev into a hero?
ये हम स्टेज पर बाबा जी की सुरक्षा के लिए आगे जा रहे थे, हमारे बाबा भी इनके साथ, इनके लाठी पर डंडा मारा गया। ये स्टेज पर गिरते गिरते बचे वो तो मैं इनके साथ साथ।
श्रीमती गांधी इस देश और देश के बच्चों से, बेटियों से, माताओं से और देश के नागरिकों से प्यार नहीं करते। ये तो इतना बड़ा क्रूर कृत्य है।
He's down, but he's certainly not out. Flown out to Dehradun, Ramdev now targets Sonia Gandhi. The Congress hits back, says he's a thug and a cheat.
जहां तक बाबा रामदेव का सवाल है, इन्होंने किसको नहीं ठगा?
The panel to draft the Lokpal bill is on the verge of collapse. The Anna Hazare team says they will boycott all future meetings unless they are televised live. Shanti Bhushan says the government should resign.
8 तारीख को जंतर मंतर पर 1 दिन का अनशन हम करेंगे।
मेरा आरोप है कि ये सब कुछ प्रधानमंत्री के निर्देश पर और श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी की सहमति से हुआ है।
From the left to the right and even friends like Mulayam Singh Yadav, every political party seems to have ganged up against the Congress, attacking the police crackdown on Baba Ramdev. LK Advani tells NDTV the president must intervene and call an emergency session of parliament. Says she's been unresponsive to the issue of corruption all these months.
Unresponsive, totally. She always commits she is a mere formality, meets us and listens to us, takes our memorandum, says nothing.
And the government says the police acted with restraint, but in hospitals the injured tell their own story. If these 4 people are seriously hurt, the opposition goes on its own dharna.
And on this special debate tonight, we look at whether the UPA's mishandling, what many people are calling inept handling of the Baba Ramdev situation, has actually made him into a hero. Even his critics are now criticizing the UPA instead, and we're asking, from cajoling the Baba to then coercing his exit, is the UPA responsible for scoring a self-goal? When it comes to Baba Ramdev, send in your tweets. My Twitter handle is @bdas. We'll pick the best ones and run them through the course of this special 2-hour debate. Alright, who would have thought that what happened last night would have triggered the kind of nationwide political debate and pushed the UPA on the back foot in the way that it has? The images that you're seeing on your screen are the top leaders of the BJP now leading their own protest, their own dharna at the Rajghat in India's capital, New Delhi. They're saying that they're taking a position against the crackdown that took place against Baba Ramdev and his supporters. Remember, there were 30,000 people in that shiver when the police went in with their batons and their lathis, as well as tear gas shells. The police has said it was forced to act. The government has said that the permission for Baba Ramdev was only to hold a yoga shiver. Instead, Ramdev, they say, converted this into a political event, and that too one linked to the VHP and the RSS. We have a special interview with LK Advani coming up in the program, but you're seeing at the moment the BJP leaders at the Rajghat. In fact, let's just listen in and get you a sense of what's happening there.
Dr. Manmohan Singh, teri तानाशाही बंद है। नौजवान साथियों, ये नारा क्यों जरूरी है? क्योंकि इसी दिल्ली में क्या हो रहा है? आज से 2 महीना पहले कश्मीर के अलगाववादी नेता गिलानी साहब आए थे। ये गिलानी साहब बोलते हैं कि कश्मीर को पाकिस्तान के साथ मिलना चाहिए। याद है आपको? आजकल वो कम बोल रहे हैं। यहाँ पर हमारे भाजपा के नौजवानों ने, जनता युवा मोर्चा के नौजवानों ने उसका विरोध किया था कि ऐसे लोगों को दिल्ली में मीटिंग नहीं करने देना चाहिए। तो चिदम्बरम साहब ने कहा था कि क्या करें, हम कानून में किसी को बोलने से रोक नहीं सकते। ये चिदम्बरम
Ravi Shankar Prasad there, an aggressive BJP on its own dharna at Rajghat in Delhi, protesting how Baba Ramdev and his supporters were treated last night. From the left to the right, everybody's been critical of the UPA. Interestingly, on this program, none of the Congress spokespeople agreed to participate in the program. They've been leaving it to the ministers who were negotiating with Baba Ramdev to come out and face the TV cameras. We're hoping to be joined by Kapil Sibal later in the program. On another side, the Anna Hazare campaign and the panel that was set up to draft the Lokpal bill is also showing signs of collapse. Today, Anna Hazare has said that unless all the future meetings with their counterparts in the government are televised live, the Lokpal members, the Anna Hazare representatives, will not be holding any future talks with the government. What started this entire crisis? How did Baba Ramdev come to have the UPA in such a twist? Let's take a look at the dramatic 24 hours that led up to this point of the UPA's crisis.
यदि मुझे जबरदस्ती यहां से उठा करके और गिरफ्तार करके ले जाए तो मेरे बिना कितने लोग यहाँ अनशन पर बैठेंगे? मुझे यदि गिरफ्तार करके सरकार जेल में डाल दे हिंसा नहीं करना है, याद रख लो।
Baba Ramdev fearing the worst on day one of his protest against corruption. Although he didn't get arrested, Baba was evicted from Delhi. His protest abruptly ended. The drama started just an hour after midnight. Baba and his supporters were woken up to find a large police presence in the Ramlila grounds. The crowd turned anxious as policemen reached the stage to tell Baba the protest needed to end. After about 10 to 15 minutes of animated discussion, the 46-year-old yoga guru decided to evade police. As cops watched, he jumped off the 2-meter-high dais and tried to merge with the crowd. Fearing his arrest, Baba's supporters, including women, formed a human cordon around him. A few minutes later, as police started converging on the Baba, his supporters swung into action, lifting the Baba on their shoulders and carrying him away from the cops and TV cameras.
We are at Ramlila Maidan, and as you can see, the police here has come in big forces and they are trying to get hold of Baba Ramdev. You can see the aggression in the police.
Waving his fist in the air, Baba addressed the agitated crowds, trying to pacify them. Sitting on his followers' shoulders with folded hands, Baba Ramdev made his way back to the stage, managing to keep the cops at bay. As the clamour grew louder, this game of cat and mouse carried on for over 30 minutes before Baba was back on the stage.
At any point of time, the police will come in with more reinforcement and will try and literally remove everybody from that stage. But the number itself is so huge. I wonder if the police can do anything because...
This was the last time Baba was seen in front of TV cameras in the Ramlila ground. This time he had managed to give police the slip. What followed were clashes between angry crowds and police, including the Rapid Action Force. A few of Baba's followers even tried requesting the police not to take Baba away. But soon, the Ram Leela Maidan was filled with tear gas. Dozens of supporters were injured in police action.
ये हम स्टेज पर बाबा जी की सुरक्षा के लिए आगे जा रहे थे, हमारे बाबा भी इनके साथ, इनके लाठी पर डंडा मारा गया। ये स्टेज पर गिरते गिरते बचे, वो तो मैं इनके साथ साथ तो इनको बचा के वहाँ से गैस।
आप गिर गए थे, उसको
सांस की तकलीफ है, इनको सांस की तकलीफ है। यदि
After the police were done, the venue of Baba Satyagraha resembled a war zone. All this while, Baba Ramdev had hid against a wall, away from police's eyes. Thinking he had escaped, the government had alerted all borders. But later, police finally caught him escaping the tent wearing women's clothing. In the morning, the yoga guru, externed from Delhi for 15 days, was flown out in a special aircraft, completing the crackdown, but reigniting another round of political backlash.
So was it a case of the UPA first being excessive in the red carpet it laid out for Baba Ramdev, sending 5 ministers to hold meetings at the airport, and then that red carpet leading all the way to police excesses? Either way, has the UPA lurched wildly from cajoling to coercion? Like we've been saying, none of the Congress spokespeople have agreed to take part in this debate that possibly tells its own story about the friction within the party and the government over the handling of this issue. We're waiting for Telecom and HRD Minister Kapil Sibal. We're hoping that he'll be joining us over the course of the next 2 hours. But let me introduce our panel tonight. We've also going to look closely at what's happening to the Lokpal drafting committee. We've got with us in the studio Kiran Bedi. She's been a big part of the Anna Hazare movement. We've also got senior advocate Tushant Dave joining us. And also, we have Devinder Sharma. He's a senior journalist, but he was also part of some of the negotiations that Baba Ramdev held with the government. We'll be coming to all of you in just a minute. At this moment, like we said, what happened last night at the Ram Leela grounds has triggered rumblings and reverberations, political reverberations across the country. The BJP and its top leaders are holding their own satyagraha. They're calling it a satyagraha at the Rajghat. You can see Ravi Shankar Prasad there taking the mic. But actually all the top leaders from L.K. Advani, Sushma Swaraj, Nitin Gadkari to Arun Jaitley are also there. Rahul Srivastav is at the Rajghat. Rahul, this is in a sense the age of the dharna, isn't it?
Yes, Barka. BJP for the last 9 months has been talking about corruption, but the BJP also believes that somewhere corruption is not a regime changer. But I think the last 24 hours, somewhere the BJP feels that the time has come that it can make the push. And that is why what the BJP is also happy about the fact that the attempt to disperse the Baba Ramdev supporters from Ram Leela ground has become some kind of a political unifier. So much so that not only is the BJP now staging a 24-hour satyagraha, its leaders have been attacking the government throughout the day. Now all top leaders are sitting here for a 24-hour dharna, but also even the allies of the government, somebody who's been a Hindutva baiter like Mulayam Singh Yadav, have come out against the government. Mayawati has spoken. Nitish Kumar, who kept Narendra Modi out, has never been a friend of Baba Ramdev. Even he has spoken against what has happened. And perhaps a fine line is being created on what happened in Ram Leela ground. While everybody is speaking about the attack on the common man, the Congress is trying to focus it on what Baba Ramdev did. And perhaps this is becoming the rallying point. And that is why the BJP believes that this is a time it can actually step up the protest throughout the country and drive home the issue of corruption. But one very important issue, that united opposition attacking the government at this moment, is certainly good news for the BJP, primarily because a monsoon session of parliament is coming, and certainly there will be a questions asked from the government, and then the government's vital business will be affected. Land acquisition bill is expected. Now the Lokpal bill is already impacted, as Anna Hazare has made an announcement, and then the opposition talk about how this is a dysfunctional government. Certainly very bad time for the government now.
All right, Rahul, we'll keep coming back to you. This is a 24-hour dharna, if I'm not wrong. So keep a close eye on that space and we'll come back to you. It's the age of the dharna, but what started off as an anti-corruption fight seems to have ended in a slugfest. and the knives are out. Nobody seems to agree with anybody else from the left to the right. Everybody has tough questions for the UPA, but the Anna Hazare camp also says it has some questions for Baba Ramdev as well. For the moment, they say they're going to boycott the meeting that was scheduled to be held tomorrow with the government interlocutors on drafting the Lokpal bill. In fact, the joint head of that drafting committee, Shanti Bhushan, has objected and protested against what happened with Baba Ramdev last night, saying that the Prime Minister and the government must resign. To our debate this evening, has the UPA scored a self-goal and made Baba Ramdev a hero? Let me start with Kiran Bedi. Kiran, this was meant to be about real issues. It was meant to be about how to uproot corruption. It seems to have become the theatre of the absurd. No matter which way you look at it, there are camps within camps, there are a clash of ideologies, and there is what happened last night, a very dramatic unfolding of events which almost everybody has criticized. Now it seems like the Lokpal bill that your campaign was championing for also stands on the verge of collapse. Why has your panel, in a sense, decided to boycott the talks tomorrow, the talks with the government?
Well, there's been increase in the trust deficit of yesterday, saying something, not implementing. There has been revival of, in a way, it's a revival of trust deficit. How much can you trust the continuing negotiations? And secondly is, I think this is the key, but secondly is the issues which they've sent to the chief ministers and a lot of political parties. The 6 key issues which the chairman, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, sent, that should the judiciary be included, should the prime minister be included, should the same law be applied to all the Lok Ayuks also, and then certain disciplinary issues. There are about 6 issues, key issues. The lower bureaucracy from joint secretary to bottom. I think the committee wants to know, where does these members stand for? Are you, and then because the discussions are so opaque, the people are not getting to know and they're not sharing. It's all once in a while Arvind says it or somebody, Shanti Bhushan says it, you know it. But let it be live, because the country needs to know, because the overwhelming population wants Prime Minister to be included, because Prime Minister's office, Prime Minister could hold one day many independent.
But you would remember that Baba Ramdev, interestingly, did not want the Prime Minister to be included within the ambit of the Lokpal. I want you to talk about what happened last night and what we are seeing unfolding ever since.
Because that we clarified with Baba Ramdev, saying, did you categorically say that you are against Prime Minister and the judiciary? He said, no, it's been twisted. मैंने तो ये कहा था कि इस पर विचार अच्छा चर्चा होनी चाहिए. He never said no.
But what about the letter that was released by Kapil Sibal, basically insinuating that Baba Ramdev had actually struck up a deal with the government even before he went on that fast?
It looks like that. Otherwise, why would these ministers go there? It looks like whose deal? I think it's been a deal within a deal, and some things are absolutely opaque. That's why Anna Hazare wants to talk to Baba and clarify certain issues before they share a dais ever in the future, which could be possible if things are clarified. But if things are not clarified, Anna goes the neutral way, the way he's been.
That's interesting. You're saying you do have some tough questions for Baba Ramdev as well. I'll ask you in a moment what those questions are, but we're looking at the political fallout of what happened in the last 24 hours. I want to go to Devinder Sharma. He's been part of the negotiations in the last week with the government. Devinder, the government and Kapil Sibal in specific held a press conference holding up a letter written by one of Baba Ramdev's key aides suggesting that Baba Ramdev had signed off onto an agreement even before he began that fast. They're now turning around and saying that Baba Ramdev reneged on his own, in a sense, promise to the government. And in any case, the permissions were for a yoga shivir camp. Not that anybody believed that, but now they're falling back on that technicality that the permissions were for a yoga shivir camp and not for a political event that would be linked to the RSS and the VHP. Your response, Devinder?
Well, let me start with the last question first. You know, when Kapil Sibal says that, you know, the permission was granted for a yoga camp and not for a dharna or for a anshan or for a fast, I want to know one thing. When the 4 ministers went to receive Ramdev at the airport, didn't they know that he is going to sit on a fast? And on the 3rd, when we went into negotiations at the Hotel Claridge's, didn't they know that we were sitting on a fast? At no stage did they mention that you have to vacate that place because you did not seek permission for it. Now let me come to the other point. You know, this entire issue of letter, let me as somebody who was a witness to it, let me now present it before you. When we went to the Claridge's, after long discussions, we had 6 hours of round of discussion, as we all know. They were the ups and downs. Swami Ramdev, I think I've seen from the few negotiations that I sat through, that he has a remarkable ability not to annoy anyone, which I think is something which I can't do it, for instance. But nevertheless, there was a perceptible change that we could see, hardening of stand in the Kapil Sibal's tone. He was trying to browbeat us, trying to tell us that this is what you need to do on the 4th and on the 6th.
But why did you sign that letter? Why did Baba Ramdev agree to sign that letter?
Barkha, you need to know. Barkha, you need to know. When they went into the other room to talk, we also talked among ourselves. Now, we were sure that we would be arrested after that, after we come out of Claridge's, or we would be arrested at night, and the government would had not let the fast go on. So we also played a tactical move, a strategy. You know, in history we know Shivaji moved out in a basket of fruits. So we knew that if we walk here adamant, the fast will not happen. And the government, what it did one day on later, would have done it one day before. So to ensure that, we said, okay, we give you in writing.
Do you regret?
The government fell in that trap.
You're saying when you signed that letter, you were laying a trap. You were laying a trap for the government. That's exactly what Kapil Sibal is saying as well. That you were laying a trap. You hoodwinked them.
But I think we made fool of them. We made fool of them. Otherwise, the entire thing would have shifted to 3rd. And the dharna would have finished before it began. So I think it was a remarkable tactical move. And I think the Kapil Sibal had to take had to be on the back foot.
All right, here we are seeing...
Now we can go on saying
Devendra, let me interrupt you here. We've also got Brinda Karat of the CPM joining us now on the panel. And we are seeing this extraordinary admission on national television that you believe that if you hadn't signed off on that letter, virtually suggesting a pre-done deal with the government, then they wouldn't have let you go along with the fast. And you hoodwinked them, you made a fool of them. That's not my phrase, that's yours. Before I come to Dushyant Dave, Brinda, your first thoughts. We're seeing so many extraordinary admissions, cynical admissions of the way these games are played behind the scenes. But what's the big message emerging from everything we've seen in the last 24 hours? You've got Baba Ramdev's aide saying, yes, we wrote that letter, we made a fool of the government. That's exactly what Kapil Sibal is arguing as well. But should the government have been negotiating for 5 days, laying out the red carpet for Baba Ramdev, and then on the 6th day when everything collapses, forcibly evict him and his supporters?
Firstly, I think it's absolutely deplorable, the police action. It has no justification whatsoever. There was no law and order issue there at all. And therefore, for the UPA government to take such a decision and to allow the lobbying of, because I've been in demonstrations and been tear gassed many a time, but this is an enclosed area, and there are elderly people there, there are women there, there are children there, they're lobbing tear gas shells. I mean, that could be, it's disastrous. So that is deplorable, it was unwarranted, and I think the government has made a very, very big mistake. The second big message that I get is the complete, because of the failure of the government to deal with black money, there is an outrage in this country demanding action. Now, as far as Ramdev's own demand letter is concerned, I have very serious problems with that. I also believe that his interaction with the government and what his colleague has now just told us, as you say on national television, they were not taking the government for a ride, they were also taking the people who were sitting there on dharna for a ride, because you cannot have secret negotiations and talk of transparency. You cannot sign letters and then go back to the people and say, I'm going to sit on a hunger strike indefinitely, knowing that you're going to call off the hunger strike in 2 days. That is cynical. Therefore, I believe that the credibility of both the government and Ramdev ji on this is pretty low at present. And I think the huge outrage there is, that issue, the gravity of the issue, I believe, has been trivialized by what has happened. Thirdly, and just very quickly, I think the utter failure...
I'll come to you, Devendra.
I think the utter failure of the UPA and the Congress to deal with the issue of black money, repatriation of black money. Supreme Court has indicted this government, repeatedly criticizing this government. It just doesn't make any difference. They don't care. They want to use the differences between all these people, whether it's, Kiranji's team, whether it's Ramdevji's team, whether it's anybody, they just want to use these differences and then set up the media to just go on talking about how everybody is having a slugfest, in your words, how everybody is fighting, so the Congress can just get away with,
So
not
according
taking
to you,
action.
both sides come out really badly.
Yeah,
Ramdev
absolutely.
and the UPA. And I'm saying again and again, the Congress has refused to participate in this debate. The Congress spokespeople
No, but I would
leaving
like
it to
to
the
say the major fault is that of the Congress and the UPA government. There's absolutely no doubt, because you can't get away from the issue. The issue is black money. The issue is government not taking action. And the way Ramdevji has dealt with it in his, his own interactions, I mean, I don't think it has brought any glory to him in any case.
Devendra, a quick response to that Ramdev was not just hoodwinking the government of India, it was actually taking the people of India, the people who were supporting his campaign for a royal ride.
No, at no place did I think, though I think that Ramdev took people for a ride. Let me make it very clear, we knew what the government was trying to promise us was nothing but empty promises. And they wanted us to, give a commitment because they could go back to Prime Minister. That's what they were trying to tell us every time they would come out of the room and so on. And then they wanted us to sign on that paper. But eventually we decided, because we knew that things were hardening at that stage, and we could have been, as I said earlier, the entire thing would have ended on before it started. So now that's where we have to take a strategic decision. But we never went back on our words. It's the government which went back on our words. And then they gave us a story that on the 6th, you were supposed to finish. When did we didn't even let the 6th come. And you took a crackdown. Crackdown happened on the night of the 5th morning, the other side of the midnight. And when we have 90% of the agreement already reached, where was the need to go for a crackdown?
All right, so you're saying...
I think it is government which has gone on a back foot.
You're saying that the government left you no option but to sign that letter. Dushyant Dave, there are many people who have raised ideological objections to some of the proposals that Baba Ramdev has made, to the kind of people he shared a stage with, including Sadhvi Ritambara, one of the key players from the Babri Masjid demolition. Yet, even those detractors, even those critics today are saying that the police action was excessive, that the UPA in a sense has moved from the excess of laying out the red carpet to police excesses, from cajoling to coercion, and it's been inconsistent. Your perspective, Dushyant?
Yeah, let me put it in twofold ways. First is, was government's action really justified? Now, as a lawyer, I can say one thing, that it is settled law by a constitution bench judgment of the Supreme Court in Madhu Limaya's case since 1970, that you don't need an overt act for the magistrate to pass an order under section 144. What you really need is a possibility of public order or public tranquility likely to be disturbed. Now, if that was the satisfaction which the Commissioner of Police Delhi or the magistrate concerned really arrived at, then that's the end of the matter. That's what the Supreme Court has said.
You're saying it was justified. You're saying, Dushyant, that it was justified. You're saying it was justified.
Absolutely, in law, because I'll tell you one thing. Supreme Court has said that Article 19(1)(a), which is the right to free speech.
But Dushyant, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're quoting the law. But where is what happened? Whereas what happened was political. The decision to meet him at the airport was political. The decision to withdraw the permission was political. It wasn't a legal decision.
You are interrupting. You hear me for 2 minutes, Barkha, please.
Okay.
You please hear me. Now, 19(1)(a) is not an absolute right. It is subject to limitations. Now, having said that, let us understand one thing. You see, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, said one thing, and which I think everybody has forgotten today, that the end cannot justify the means. The means that Baba Ramdev and all have adopted, be it the civil society, be it everybody, they have right to say so. But the means that they are adopting today are means which are trying to destabilize a democratically elected government by undemocratic means. Our situation is not like Egypt, where there was no democracy. We have a democratically elected government. We are a healthy democracy where elections take place every 5 years. Now, you can't, allow people to take, or a section of the people to take law into their own hands and say that, no, this is what I believe the government must do. Now, having said that, let us understand one thing. Corruption is is not a monopoly of one party.
Yeah.
Corruption, just a minute. Corruption is an asset which belongs to every political party, and they have all, nurtured this asset for a long time. Now, if this is the situation, then, Sadhvi Ritambara's presence yesterday really shows that the cat is out of bag. Baba Ramdev's protest was not a protest which was so simple as it appears to be. It was a highly political, it was highly communal kind of a gathering. It was a carnival which would have really perhaps resulted in serious situation. Now look at this. If these are the people who today are asking Prime Minister to resign, where were these people? I asked them a question. Where thousands of people were being allowed to be killed in Gujarat, the same people did not even say, the same Mr. Advani, same Mr. Jetli prevailed upon Vajpayee not to dismiss
Brinda's wanting to come in, Dushant, and I've got a Ashok Malik waiting as well. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. I'm sorry, Brinda, go ahead. You think it's shocking? You think the unelected are appropriating the political space? You think Sadhvi Ritambara's presence there, in a sense, revealed what the agenda really was? Brinda Karat, go ahead.
Well, it seems that the gentleman who was just talking to us about the law has absolutely no idea about it. Because if he had an iota of knowledge about the law, he would know that you have to give notice before sending in 8,000 policemen to a dharna. Let me please finish what I'm saying. And therefore, this police action was an action taken by this...
Okay, you're a damn good lawyer, and we'll come back to you. Let Brinda make her point. We've also got Ashok Malik waiting. Brinda, go ahead.
This action was taken by the Congress government with absolutely no ostensible reason. And why I say ostensible is because even today, for the last 12 hours, neither the Delhi police or the Home Minister, who is usually so active in informing the country what his ministry is doing, he's been unable to give a cogent reason as to why the Delhi police acted the way they did. Therefore, the issue today is the deplorable actions of the Delhi police under the instructions of the central government. There is nothing democratic about that. Secondly, I would like to tell this gentleman that political parties have been raising the issue of corruption and the Lokpal bill from 1996. The issue of the PM being included in the Lokpal bill was raised by the left in 1996. And it is the government which has refused to comply with any of its assurances or any of the legitimate demands. When the government is so completely deaf and refuses to accept any democratic discussion, obviously people who are outraged by the corruption, certainly people who are now justifying the Congress action, don't want to face this reality that the Congress today is concealing the fact of its utter failure to bring back black money into this country and to eliminate it. That is very, very clear.
All right, Ashok Malik entered this debate. What is this about? Is this about... Dushant, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Yeah, I know you want to make a point. Let me just get Ashok. He hasn't spoken yet. Ashok, what should the debate and the public focus be on today? Should it be on the viability and the substance of Baba Ramdev's proposals or Anna Hazare's proposals? Should it be on the police sending in thousands of policemen, tear gas shells in a congregation of 30,000 people, wherein you take a step back and you say, I may not agree with a word of what Baba Ramdev says, but what the police did was wrong. Ashok.
You see, Barkha, I'm not an adherent of Baba Ramdev, and I have serious problems with some of his rather extreme proposals and demands. Having said that, a civil war or differences or theatrics within civil society between Anna Hazare's group and Baba Ramdev's group and any sort of third group are, in a sense, in the larger sense, irrelevant. Because these people are not standing for elections. Baba Ramdev is talking of setting up a political party, but I don't think it will be a serious party. The political damage has been done to the government. It has this lost credibility, and yesterday's action has been a PR disaster for the government. In purely cold, political, value-neutral terms, you can handle a situation like this in one of three ways. You can mollycoddle and pamper and succumb to Baba Ramdev or whoever's throwing the challenge. You can use strong arm tactics from moment one and say you are not being allowed into the city or your supporters are being blocked before they come in. Or you can whittle away at the man's credibility by, as Digvijay Singh tried to do, by talking about his sources of funding, by calling him all sorts of names, by alleging he has a political background. You have to do one of these things and do it consistently. In the past 7 days, various people in the Congress and the UPA government did all of these things in parallel. So when Digvijay Singh calls Ramdev a thug today, you wonder whether his colleague Kapil Sibal was talking to a thug 2 days ago or was talking to a guru 2 days ago.
Fair question.
And that is something the Congress has to face up to.
Fair question. And you're saying that's the focus, that there's been no consistency, in a sense, in the Congress response. But Kiran, you have decided today that you have some very serious questions for Baba Ramdev. What are those questions?
Not me, Anna.
Anna Hazare.
Yeah.
What are those questions?
He hasn't disclosed those, and he's looking for the opportunity to meet him. But Anna has announced that on the 8th of June, he's going to sit for a day in protest. And also for these issues that the Jan Lokpal Bill Joint Committee has been not going the way people are expecting. What are the people asking for? An independent anti-corruption authority. And now that you've signed the United Nations Anti-Corruption Treaty, you don't have a choice. It has to be from Mantri to Santri. There are no exceptions in this.
Do the political leanings, I'll just come to you, Brinda, do the political leanings as alleged by the Congress of Baba Ramdev, that the presence of someone like Sadhvi Ritamra disturb the Anna Hazare camp?
But the point is, when we met Baba Ramdev much before the fast started, Baba clearly said that if Anna, whenever he does, if he comes and shares the stage, there'll be nobody else on the stage other than him. So Baba Ramdev is quite aware of the sensitivities of Anna, because Anna's movement has been totally neutral. He did not allow any political person to come and share the stage. If somebody came and usurped it, that's different. But he was requested to say, be part of the spectators, but this is a neutral.
But I'm wondering whether this is one of the questions you're going to put, in fact, to Baba Ramdev.
But no, he would. I bet he would. These are some of the issues he would clarify. And two, even his demands. I think that we would like, Anna Hazare's camp would like to take the focus towards the ordinance against black money. And we issued a press release.
Well, the government has actually ruled out that ordinance.
So we are supporting him on this demand of the ordinance to bring back stashed money.
Brinda, one of the things we're seeing politically is that from the left to the right, everybody has deplored the police action that took place. Yet I must ask you, especially because you speak for the left, when you see a Sadhvi Ritamra, when you see the clear RSS and VHP links, does that not make you pause before coming on this platform which basically positions Baba Ramdev and his supporters as the victim?
I don't think you've seen our party statement, because our statement has got three very important points. The first, as you've rightly said, we strongly deplore the police action. The second is, I spoke in my introductory remarks on your program today, that we don't think the way that Ramdevji has interacted with the government, coming to backstage deals and not sharing it and not being transparent, that is a very wrong thing, and we don't at all support many of the demands he has made. And as far as the communal element is concerned, the fact that Sadhvi Ritamra and other communal elements shared his stage shows his essential ideological bias. I mean, there's absolutely no hiding the fact. And therefore, that he is ideologically has a bias, otherwise how could anybody have people who are known to be minority haters or associate with a really communal platform be allowed to share the stage? The third point, I mean, I'm a great, I've been with Kiranji on many, many platforms, and, I appreciate a great deal of what she and her team are doing. I think they've played an excellent role. But I do believe that this tarring of anybody or anything that is political as something which has to be avoided or something which is demeaning to Indian democracy, I don't think that is going to help at all in this fight against corruption. Secondly, I would also say that we have differences. We've seen this questionnaire which has been sent by Pranab Babu. I think Kiranji also may have seen it. It's absolutely outrageous. I mean, they're giving us a questionnaire saying yes, no, and 10 points, which the Anna team, as it's now called, feels it's important. We have many other issues. We have an issue of corporate money. We have an issue of the way that political functionaries and government functionaries have got deep contacts with corporates. Now that doesn't figure at all in these discussions. We don't believe that you can have a Lokpal bill which excludes the Prime Minister. You must have the Prime Minister. You must have MPs. But there are many other issues which we feel are much more important than the Anna team says. But that does not mean that just because that is what they believe is true, that is what is going to happen.
All right,
we must have a dialogue.
Therefore, quickly, I need to take a break. Yeah.
The joint committee, when it was being formed, we proposed to the government, why don't you have one leader, the leader of the opposition as a part of the joint committee? Yeah. We offered it, saying why don't you have, it could be 5 plus 5 plus 1. In fact, we did offer.
The question that has to be also asked this evening is, where is the Congress? Other than Digvijay Singh and Kapil Sibal and Subodh Kant Sahai, two of whom were ministers who were actually negotiating with Baba Ramdev, the Congress is actually silent in this debate that we're holding at the moment. Several key questions have been raised. On the other side of the break, is Baba Ramdev and the government equally to blame for the fiasco that unfolded last night and that we're now confronted with? Does Baba Ramdev also have to answer some very tough questions? Has the UPA's inept, clumsy handling of the situation, its inconsistency, made Baba Ramdev a hero? And also to Devinder Sharma, an aide of Baba Ramdev, do we buy this answer that when they signed off on a letter declaring when they would call off that fast, they were only fooling the government and making a tactical play? All this and more coming up on the other side. You're watching our special debate on whether the UPA has made Baba Ramdev into a hero. Even those who do not agree with Baba Ramdev's proposals or what he represents are today almost united in their criticism of the police crackdown on the Ramlila Maidan. There were 30,000 people there when thousands of policemen moved in. So why does Baba Ramdev have the UPA all in a twist? And are Baba Ramdev and the UPA equally to blame for the chaos that has unfolded? Remember, 4 people are actually seriously injured after what happened last night, including a woman who reports suggest may have been paralyzed from the injuries that she suffered last night. Let me go back to Devinder Sharma and Dushyant Dave, who are still with us. Devinder, you were wanting to respond to the point that Brinda Karat raised about an absence of transparency with the public at large, coming from people who are essentially leading a campaign about transparency in public life.
Well, I think when we talk of transparency, I need to tell you also what happened at the time when the 4 ministers came to receive Baba Ramdev. I happened to be there, and they were very happy to say that, Babaji, you have made a wonderful statement about Prime Minister and the Chief Justice of India being kept out of the Lokpal bill. And they wanted, or boliye, or jor se boliye. And Baba was not cowed down by this. Baba said very clearly that, let me clarify, I did not make this demand. All I said was, there need to be a more debate on it. Let me tell you another transparency thing. When we met at Claridge's, Mr. Kapil Sibal told us very categorically that if on the 5th of June, Anna Hazare comes to your platform, everything finishes. So he said, we don't want Anna Hazare to come to your platform. And Baba Ramdev made it very clear there that we have invited Anna Hazare ji, he is promised to come, and we will not say no to him.
But you didn't share any of this with the people.
We need to know about
You didn't share any of this with the people. In fact, you said you were in serious rounds of talks. You were hopeful of a resolution in all the press conferences that Baba Ramdev had leading up to that that day. Now you're suggesting that it was all part of an elaborate ruse.
Discussions.
Sorry?
No, hold on. But when Kapil Sibal made that letter public, I need to tell what also happened there. Otherwise, you know, it is part of the decorum that you normally have for negotiations. Now, what we discussed there, the country does not know that besides corruption, there is a whole lot of demands on land acquisitions, on agriculture, on ban on genetically modified crops, on a farmer's income commission, on godowns in the panchayats and so on. These are the demands which were just brushed aside by the government. Now, we need to know, Swami Ramdev was talking for entire, all sector reforms, not only about corruption.
All right,
I think these are very important things which were brushed aside.
We'll have to look at those proposals separately, because that's actually another minefield of a debate. Many of those proposals, including capital punishment for economic offences, the withdrawal of 500 and 1,000 rupee notes from the market, seen by many as completely absurd and untenable. That needs another kind of separate
but there
debate.
was agreement on this in the meeting.
There was
we had agreed to keep silent about it.
Fair enough. Brinda, before I go back to Dushyant Dave, are you satisfied with this explanation that this happens in the course of negotiations?
No, I think Devinder Sharma ji, I must congratulate him actually, because he has been so candid and he has, given so much information, which really shows how diabolical the Congress is and its leaders are, the way that they try and use people. Obviously, one of the reasons, it's clear from what he's saying, that they went to meet Ramdev ji at the airport was precisely to,
create
this rift between them on the
Lokpal.
Lokpal.
Very evident.
So
I
do appreciate Devinder Sharma ji's point, and I also take his point that in the course of negotiations, many things are said, which are obviously, anybody who's familiar with negotiations knows that you don't make everything public. The point that I was making was the actual agreement which had been reached about the hunger strike, a written agreement.
He's saying now that was the way of fooling the government.
No. What I think, because we have so much experience about negotiation, whether it's workers and management, whether it's with the government, you just cannot do that. That is cheating your own people. This is a principle of negotiation. You cannot cheat the people who you are there to represent. You cannot come to a written agreement and say, my hunger strike is for this, and you are going to do this, have it all stage managed, have a match fixed, and then go back, and then for whatever reason, unfortunately, this backstage, the backstage deal fell apart. And who was caught in it?
That letter?
It's the people who were caught.
Are you disappointed by the letter?
You're calling him the political yoga? After hearing Devinder...
I'm calling this whole thing the political yoga.
You call him, after hearing Devinder, I'll call him Miss Political Yoga.
Why?
It's missed. He doesn't know. I don't think that was the way the team knew at all. Look, we suspected it. That's why there's been a trust deficit.
But were you disappointed that Baba Ramdev wrote this letter? Or his
you know what? We spoke to one of his very close aides. They were very regretful. They said, "Galti ho gayi."
So, this is interesting. Devinder Sharma says it was a tactical masterstroke. It was a way of fooling the government. Kiran Bedi says, another representative says, "Galti ho gayi." Dushyant Dave, you believe the government had no option but to do what it did. You believe it's unhealthy that the unelected are appropriating this much political space. Go ahead with your point.
Absolutely, Barkha. It's a very dangerous trend which is setting into this country. And this is really something which is going to have serious repercussions on India's future. You have seen the kind of demands that Mr. Sharma spoke about. You will never have development in this country if a handful of people or a section of people were to object to anything and everything. I mean, it's really not in the purview of a section of people to raise this kind of objections. After all, you elect a government and you expect the government to follow certain norms, certain traditions, certain principles, certain rules. And you can only, vote that government out after 5 years. You can't just, take the law into your own hands and say, this particular point is not accepted, so we will object to it. Now, that's really not done. Now, having said that, let me say one thing to the lady from the Communist Party, that if 1996, there was a provision for Lokpal bill, why is it that her party supported the UPA from 1996 till 2010? It's only now that when Congress has joined hands with Mamta and they are finding it inconvenient that they certainly are saying that, oh, there is a great issue of Lokpal. Why did they support Congress? They should have said nothing doing, we don't want to support Congress. I mean, this is complete hypocrisy. I mean, I find it extremely funny that all these people have now come together to hijack something for their purely political gains. And that is very unhealthy for a billion-plus nation that we are. We are not Congress. We are not a particular party. We are India. and India has to be governed in a particular manner, not by what civil society gentlemen or ladies might say or few political leaders will say. This is something which raises a serious issue. We must debate this everywhere else. We must take consensus of people. There is no consensus today.
See, I do need to take a break, but Brinda, quick response to that. Isn't there something unhealthy? You're a politician. Are you not unnerved by this broad stroke tarring of all politicians?
The first point is I'm not going to answer his question because he doesn't know the history from 1996. He thinks we've been supporting UPA, which was never existence in 1996 till now. So I don't think there's any need to answer that. I don't think he's totally confused about it. He doesn't know it's a Congress which threw out the United Front government which we were supporting. So let's not discuss that. The point is, it is true that the utter failure and undemocratic attitude of the government in dealing with issues which we raise in Parliament has really eroded and corroded the democratic parliamentary system in this country. Why is Parliament stalled day after day? Why is it? It's not because we want to get a political card or not. It is basically because the government does not listen. So when the government does not listen and not insensitive, well then everybody who is outraged by the huge corruption scandals which are taking place, including the failure to eliminate black money in the economy, everybody is going to struggle. And unfortunately...
But respond to what he's saying.
What is he saying?
He's saying that at some point you're saying if you want to be in the political space, contest an election. Don't stand outside of the system, pretend to be holier than thou, say everybody else is dirty, all politicians are wretched people.
Look, I have absolutely no sympathy with the point of view which says that politicians are all bad and the country doesn't need politicians and political parties. I have absolutely no sympathy with that view, and I totally disagree with those in civil society who hold that view. I'm sure many in civil society do not hold that view. At the same time, there are only 542 seats in Parliament. So when people want to express a point of view, and they have a very legitimate point of view.
There are those who think this is blackmail. There are those who think this method is blackmail.
And there are those who think that the government is leaving itself open to more and more struggles, because of its attitude. And I don't think the struggle, and I don't think the struggle of the people for a legitimate demand can ever be called blackmail.
All right, we do need to take a break. Before that, at the Congress President's residence, there has been a meeting of all of the Congress leaders. Janardhan Dwivedi with some details on that meeting. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Today, a meeting of the office bearers of the AICC, along with in charges of states and 4 central ministers, was held under the presidency of the Congress President. The issue was recent happenings in the country, particularly in Delhi, and it was felt that there are certain forces who do not believe, who do not have any faith in democratic and constitutional system of the country. It has happened in the past also. When they were weakened, they were defeated in elections, they were rejected by the people, they started to adopt some other means to come to the power, to come to the fore. This is happening this time also. There are political forces, there are communal forces, and both are together, and they join hands with other elements who want to create an anarchic situation in the country for certain vested interests. They have joined together again. So party has decided to meet this challenge and hold meetings starting from the village level to the national level, and tell the people about the real motive and design of these forces, and also to explain them to the achievements of the party, central government, wherever we have state governments, our policies, programs and ideology of the Indian National Congress. Thank you. We do not discuss individuals, and we don't take notice of the individuals. This is not the question. What we are saying, the person you have named is nothing. He is supported by these forces only. The whole show was organized by them. That has already explained by the government. Thank you.
All right, a short statement there basically suggesting that the entire event by Baba Ramdev was an orchestrated, staged political event, pointing, though not naming, alluding to the right, interestingly ending by saying that person is nothing. We presume he meant Baba Ramdev, though initially he said he would not name individuals. He is being propped up by other vested interests. So we'll take a quick break. On the other side, we're continuing our special focus on the political fallout of Baba Ramdev. I'll come to you, Kiran, in just 2 minutes on the other side of the break.
I do need to go because I'm on time.
Who's to blame for the fiasco at the Ram Leela grounds? Is it Ramdev and the UPA equally, or has the UPA's handling of the issue made Baba Ramdev into a hero? By the way, there are reports coming in that Baba Ramdev did attempt to reach the UP border to start another fast, but we're being told, we're still awaiting confirmation on these reports, that he's been turned back. Kiran, you wanted to make a point, a criticism that is leveled again and again at the doorstep of your campaign, that you have subverted, in a sense, the political process. See, that civil society has, in a grandiose way, appropriated itself to itself an authority that is not even willing to contest elections for.
Excellent, wonderful. When we started, when we drafted the Jan Lokpal bill, we went to every political party, including hers. We went to every political party saying, here's a movement awaiting. We want this, every country wants it. Hey, we've drafted the bill for you, take this up as a movement. Come together. Nobody did. Nobody took this up. Then we went to the government for negotiations every time, till Anna said that I'm going to sit on a hunger fast. We didn't even get the audience with the Prime Minister. And then he said no, the only demand of Anna was a joint drafting committee. That was rejected in the Prime Minister's meeting. Then again he wrote that my 5th of April is final. Till he sat, this did not come about. So let me clarify, we were not first going around shouting and touting that we are civil society, we will serve your space. We were giving space, saying please be our spokesman. We also met Brinda. We met everybody. We met Mr. Digvijay Singh. We met Mr. Advani.
But you had no response, you're saying, till Anna Hazare went.
They all said it's right, it's good, it's perfect, but I said, what but? We want to take this up. Enough is enough, number one. Secondly, what the BJP has done now, asking for a special session, I think it should have been done then. Instead of boycotting, they should have asked for a special session then and asked for a whole debate on corruption.
Okay, very quickly.
Finally, look how media has been misled. We spent the whole day clarifying that day that there is no rift between Baba Ramdev and us. Whole day, because it was engineered. And we kept saying, where is it coming from? There is no rift. And then we had to go and clarify with Baba. And he said, मैंने ये कहा था कि इस पर चर्चा हो जाए. मैंने ये नहीं कहा था इनको बाहर रखा जाए. See how unfair. Media was used. And we had to go back and spend the whole day.
Is the Lokpal panel now officially defunct? Because it seems to me there will be no future meetings.
No. We've not said that. We've just said we want the answers.
But you've asked the government to resign. Shanti Bhushan has asked for the Prime Minister and the entire government to resign. Well, the point How can you negotiate with somebody you've asked to resign?
Barkha, the point is, that's a part about this joint committee I'm saying. We've said, give us the answers also before we meet you and make it live so that people get to know who is saying what. Because you see, I told you there's been a decline in trust.
All right, Kiran Baby, thank you very much. This story, many people believe, is just a beginning. We're keeping a close eye on it. It's 9 o'clock or almost 9 o'clock. We're debating whether Baba Ramdev has been made into a hero by the UPA. Let's take a look at the headlines if you're just tuning in.
Bye.
Even Baba Ramdev's critics say they deplore the use of police force to evict him and his supporters. From cajoling the Baba to coercing his exit, has the UPA turned Ramdev into a hero?
ये हम स्टेज पर बाबा जी की सुरक्षा के लिए आगे जा रहे थे, हमारे बाबा भी इनके साथ, इनके लाठी पर डंडा मारा गया। ये स्टेज पर गिरते गिरते बचे वो तो मैं इनके साथ साथ।
श्रीमती गांधी इस देश और देश के बच्चों से, बेटियों से, माताओं से और देश के नागरिकों से प्यार नहीं करते। ये तो इतना बड़ा क्रूर कृत्य है।
He's down, but he's certainly not out. Flown out to Dehradun, Ramdev now targets Sonia Gandhi. The Congress hits back, says he's a thug and a cheat.
जहां तक बाबा रामदेव का सवाल है, इन्होंने किसको नहीं ठगा?
The panel to draft the Lokpal bill is on the verge of collapse. The Anna Hazare team says they will boycott all future meetings unless they are televised live. Shanti Bhushan says the government should resign.
8 तारीख को जंतर मंतर पर 1 दिन का अनशन हम करेंगे।
मेरा आरोप है कि ये सब कुछ प्रधानमंत्री के निर्देश पर और श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी की सहमति से हुआ है।
From the left to the right and even friends like Mulayam Singh Yadav, every political party seems to have ganged up against the Congress, attacking the police crackdown on Baba Ramdev. LK Advani tells NDTV the president must intervene and call an emergency session of parliament. Says she has been unresponsive to the issue of corruption all these months.
Unresponsive, totally. She always commits she is a mere formality, meets us and listens to us, takes our memorandum, says nothing.
And the government says the police acted with restraint, but in hospitals the injured tell their own story. At least 4 people are seriously hurt. The opposition goes on its own dharna. On our special focus today, has the UPA, with its inept handling of the Baba Ramdev situation, turned Baba Ramdev into a hero, when even his fierce critics and detractors from the left to the right, almost everybody is criticizing the police crackdown. And now it seems to be Congress versus the rest.
Why was a peaceful meeting suddenly attacked by the police with tear gas, sticks and stones? That's the crux of not just the opposition, but even some allies' fury against the government. They've gone for the jugular, especially the BJP, which the Congress suspects was fueling Ramdev's protest.
मेरा आरोप है कि ये सब कुछ प्रधानमंत्री के निर्देश पर और श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी की सहमति से हुआ है, चिदंबरम और कपिल सिब्बल जैसे मंत्रियों की सलाह पर हुआ है।
रामलीला मैदान में घटना घटित हुई है। इस देश के लोकतंत्र के इतिहास में एक शर्मनाक अध्याय है।
जनता देगी इस्तीफा, ऐसा माहौल बनाएंगे जो जनता इस्तीफा देगी।
The central government has behaved in a most undemocratic manner late last night at Baba Ramdev's meeting, which was a peaceful meeting.
Even the CPM, not really a friend of Ramdev's, has called the police action deplorable and short-sighted. But the government's point person Kapil Sibal and the Congress chief Ramdev critic Digvijay Singh, already wary of Ramdev's RSS backing, have not only defended the police action but also gone on the offensive against Ramdev. They are calling him a thug, a cheat, untrustworthy, among other charges.
A Yog Shivir should be a Yog Shivir. It should not be a political Shivir. And this is what was happening, right? On the stage, there should have been yoga asanas and not political asanas. And that is what was happening.
प्रणब मुखर्जी जैसे वरिष्ठ नेता ने अपना पूरा राजनीतिक करियर दांव पे लगाकर एयरपोर्ट पर मिलने गए और उसके बाद चर्चा हुई। चर्चा में समझौता कर लिया, फिर जनता को पूरा ठगा।
But the government's senior-most troubleshooter was a bit more subdued, calling it an unfortunate turn of events.
The issues which have been raised are important issues. These are to be addressed. And we requested him to confine his observations. He said first that he will conduct Yoga Shivir. There was no mention, the permission which was sought, it was for Yoga Shivir. Then when negotiations were conducted, he said that he will do it, confine it to 3 days.
So has the government made a hero out of Ramdev? It's a tricky question, although one thing is clear, even those critical of him criticize the government for attacking him.
ये केवल हरकत नहीं शिरकत है, पर वो बिल्कुल ही गैर कानूनी और असंवैधानिक है। याद दिलाने वाली है कहीं ब्रिटिश राज का। कई लोग इमरजेंसी के दिनों को भी याद कर रहे हैं।
The immediate political fallout could be embarrassing for the government. One member of Team Anna in the midst of talks with the government is calling for the Prime Minister's resignation.
सारे देश को प्रधानमंत्री और उनके कैबिनेट से इस्तीफा मांगना चाहिए और नया चुनाव होना चाहिए 2-4 महीने के अंदर.
And another Team Anna member, while critical of the government, was equally critical of Ramdev.
If there was an agreement in the hotel room 204,
it should have
day
been
before
made.
yesterday, it should have been made public then and there.
Right.
So this is the agreement we have reached, and now there is no need for any movement or protest.
But perhaps a barometer of things going wrong is when your friends point it out. Omar Abdullah tweeted, "If the whole purpose of last night's police action was a quick and quiet end to the drama, the drawing board needs revisiting." The final act of the drama is far from over.
Not just is the final act of the drama far from over, many people believe the real story is beginning only now. Remember, the BJP's leaders have also declared their own dharna at Rajghat in Delhi. We've got BJP leader Rajiv Pratap Rudy with us in the studio. We also have with us Dushyant Dave, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, and joining us also is Madhu Kishwar, always an outspoken commentator. Let me start with you, Rudy, if I can. Many people believe that with the presence of Sadhvi Ritambara on the stage yesterday with Baba Ramdev, it's now clear, and this is what we're hearing from Dushyant Dave again and again, it's now clear that what was happening was not a yoga shivar, but a political event. Does that change? Does that change
I'll
in a
just
sense
make
the
a
debate?
small clarification here. There are 3 aspects to the whole thing.
Yeah.
A, even the government believes, and there is an issue that there is black money, and this was an issue there that is agreed. B, everyone agrees that the assault or the attack, the midnight attack on the people there was uncalled, and it was brutal and unacceptable. That's absolutely. Third aspect, whether Baba has a right to conduct this campaign as a yogic crew. Now, this is the only
But
dispute.
do you accept that this was not a yoga camp, it was a political event?
Agreed.
Do you accept that?
Agreed. He had been talking about this protest for a long time. But having said that, even if the government said that they did not have a right to carry on that, what was the need to attack those people who were there as participating? And you could have arrested them. You said that all of you are under arrest. Why do you fire tear gas shells?
The police
and let's forget this also. I'm asking a very simple question. This government, Mr. Chidambaram's government, when there is
Gilani,
Mr. Chidambaram's and Mr. Manmohan Singh's government. Mr. Chidambaram as a home minister, this whole thing was, the whole plan was done by the home ministry. If Shahid Gilani comes to Delhi and makes a separatist statement saying that Kashmir should be away from India, he's not arrested in central Delhi. When Arundhati Roy comes and speaks in Delhi, in central Delhi, under the nose of the government, talking separatist, saying that the Jammu and Kashmir should be separated from India, no action is taken. And here is a person who is a yogic, who wants to do yoga and talks about corruption. He is to be arrested, he has to be externed, his followers have to be beaten, elders have to be beaten, they have to be injured, they have been... Is this what is democracy?
All right, the police
or is this a hate against that saffron? These are the questions which need to be addressed.
Can I give you just a counter argument which is coming from the Delhi police?
Please.
The Delhi police says that they gave him permission for a specific purpose. He violated that. He had permission for 5,000 people. It ended up being 30,000. They went to serve the externment notice. Baba Ramdev then ran away from them, jumped onto the stage, grabbed a mic, and then used a human cordon to surround himself.
I think Baba Ramdev, had it been a political person, he said there is no violence. If there was no violence, what was the reason for the government to attack those people? There was no violence involved. They were not armed. They were not armed. They didn't have violence. They didn't have weapons. What was the purpose in acting the way the government has acted?
Before I come to you, Madhu, Dushyant has been defending what the government did. He's been questioning the power of the authority, the self-appointed authority of civil society, which has become the catchphrase these days, to appropriate the political space for itself. Dushyant, respond to what Rudy is saying, that even if this was a political event, does the Constitution of India not allow political people to protest?
Let me respond to what Rudy says, and I have great regard and affection for Rudy Pratap. And what I say is not against individuals, because I have many friends within the BJP itself, as I have in many other political parties. But having said that, let me respond to three very pertinent questions that Rudy raises. First is the issue about the corruption. I mean, can BJP deny that, BJP's election funding also comes from the same source, which is seriously today eroding India's moral fiber? I mean,
in fact,
everybody
Shivraj
knows,
Singh Chauhan, I remember, said openly that all elections are financed by black money. And he said it to us in an interview. But go ahead, Dushyant.
Exactly. Now, yeah. I know of many questionable, people with questionable background in industry who are very closely associated with top BJP leaders and Congress leaders also, or other political leaders. Having said that, see, corruption is an issue which can't be, tackled in this sense. We as a society, we must understand, it's not just the person who takes money who's guilty. Person who gives money is equally guilty.
Okay, so you're saying the BJP is as guilty of corruption?
Within ourselves.
You're saying the BJP is as
culpable? Within ourselves, we must ingrain ourselves that we don't want to compromise. Now, that's one. Two, second issue, he says that why was a peaceful demonstration attacked last night? Now, it was peaceful, yes. But if it was likely, if it had the tendency to become really violent, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, then the Commissioner of Police or the magistrate in charge has every reason to believe that there is likelihood of a breach of peace in future.
Dushyant, would you take tear gas shells? Would you take tear gas shells into a congregation that has 30,000 people?
And in anticipation, in a democracy, you burst tear gas shells simply in anticipation. I think he needs to be contradicted. In anticipation, you fire tear gas shells. Please,
Rudy, I didn't interrupt you.
Please go ahead.
Okay, quickly, I've got Shabnam Hashmi.
This is the fascism that you don't allow people to speak.
Please go ahead. But you can't talk things.
Let me respond to you, Rudy.
You cannot fire tear gas shells on people who were sleeping in the night. That is the question. Even in anticipation, you cannot fire tear gas shells. That is the question.
Exactly, this is what you want. You don't want people's voice to be heard.
No, voice of the people.
You are exposing yourself, Rudy. You don't want people's voice to be heard.
Anyway, go ahead. People are hearing you. Go ahead.
Look, people of India are not Congress and BJP alone. So there are billion plus people, and the
you are a votary of the government firing tear gas shells in the middle of the night. You are a votary of the government
who are hijacking the system.
You are a votary of the government firing tear gas shells in the middle of the night.
I am not a votary of the government.
You are a votary of the government firing tear gas shells in the middle of the night.
Mr. Rudy Pratap, I am not.
Then are you saying that action of the government in anticipation of a crime firing tear gas shells on people is correct?
Just stop now. Allow me, please. Let me respond.
Okay, quickly, Dushyant. I've got to move on to the other
I am not a votary of government. I have appeared against the Congress party, against Sajjan Kumar for the Sikh community, where none of your top leaders from BJP were willing to appear. Okay? So I have nothing to do with the government. Congress government has really discredited itself by having a dialogue with Baba Ramdev. I mean, whether it's the coterie of 10 Janpath or coterie in Prime Minister's office, both have really done great disservice to democracy and India. But having said that, let me say one thing, that last night's events as they were unfolding, and I watched them till 3:15 in the morning, really showed that it was going to be impossible for even Ramdev to control his followers. If that was the situation when he was resisting arrest, when he was resisting lawful authority, because there was an order on the 144 which was sought to be served on him. There was an order of expungement which was sought to be served. If he resisted, then police had every right to intervene and take all measures. Mr. Rudy Pratap, you guys were never moved when thousands of people were being killed in Gujarat. You are moved today because one shamiana of a carnival has been stopped. I can't understand. Are you a national party or you are not?
I can understand that your feelings for saffron is so strong that
what were you doing in Gujarat?
He is wearing a saffron t-shirt, for God's sake.
I can understand your anger. I can understand your anger because you do not have a logic to explain that you are a votary which says that the action of the government in anticipation of an action which could have happened by the people, it was correct to fire tear gas shells on elderly people or women. And this is what is your argument. I understand that. We understand that. Absolutely.
We will come back to both Rudy and Dushyant. Let me get in Shabnam and Madhu Kishwar now.
You have lost.
Dushyant, give me a second. Dushyant, we'll come back to both of you. Shabnam Hashmi, go ahead.
Barkha, first of all, I want to say that you will vouch for it yourself that in the last 8 years I have informed you on the basis of the information received from the ground level by secular activists that there was going to be a certain riot, a certain problem in certain areas including Gujarat and other states. And every time we have been able to get the media and other people moved in to avert riots of a smaller level. And coming from the same experience and putting 30 years of my activism in front of this nation, I want to say that there was a plan to set the Shamiana on fire at 3, which would have created a mayhem, and it could have killed people, it could have even...
Whose plan?
Somehow
Whose
could have...
plan? Whose plan? It's a hell of a statement to make. So how you have to be able to back it up with evidence.
RSS and VHP were all prepared to create a second Godhra across India.
Shabnam, on what basis do you say this? It's a very, very inflammatory
You see, this is a sedatory sentence and a statement. How can a person charge of an organization of your own inhibitions and of your own categorization of situation? How can you charge an organization or individuals or groups with such a statement? And this is an incendiary statement. This sentence deserves an action by the government because there are people in the system who instigate individuals when they were rightfully sitting for a cause there, and this is exactly what happens when it happens.
Let me ask her the question.
People like you, pardon me, ma'am, I have a great respect for you. People like you cast aspersions, create such situations. You are insinuating, you are charging. It is a malicious attempt to charge the RSS, to charge the BJP.
On what basis you make
What is the basis?
On what basis
you should be charged for making such an incendiary statement.
I'm saying that in
are you a
when I informed you.
Let's listen to her. Shabnam,
just let me finish if you want to.
Shabnam, this is me asking a question. This is me asking a question. Madhu, I'm sorry, I'm coming to you in just a second. This is me asking this question. When you come onto national television and you make such a serious statement,
bizarre statement,
you should have hard, concrete evidence before you make it. What is that evidence that you have?
I am Barkha in 2006 when I told you that a riot was going to happen in Baroda. You did not ask me, riot started next day. In 2007 when I said that in South Gujarat is going to burn, that happened. We have people on the ground who keep an eye, like RSS keeps an eye on us, secular activists also keep an eye on what RSS and VHP are doing. And second thing is,
for me,
mere rhetoric,
it is not simply because you don't have an argument for all those individuals who have been beaten up, who have been injured, simply because you are apathetic to those people who have been injured, all those elders who have been injured. Here is a situation where you're trying to castigate people. It's the most unfortunate. It is most unfortunate. Without evidence, you are charging the
Okay, we will come back to Shabnam.
Most bizarre statement which I have ever heard in a political life.
All right, Madhu Kishwar, before I come back to Shabnam Hashmi, you're listening to all this. We've also got Suhail Seth joining us on the panel. Madhu, go ahead. You have had a very interesting position. Shabnam, I will come back to you because I do have some specific questions on that. Madhu, you are somebody who began, I remember reading your piece, by actually questioning the kind of sweeping authority that the Anna Hazare camp had appropriated for itself. Yet when it came to Baba Ramdev, you believed that he had a mass following and he had a right, in a sense, to take that protest. Why, A, the difference between your response to Anna Hazare and Baba Ramdev? And B, do you want to respond at all to what you're hearing from Shabnam Hashmi? We are going to ask her to substantiate that statement, but your comments first.
I think you misunderstood my position on Anna Hazare. I participated myself in the Anna Hazare. You would have seen a Manushi banner in the Anna Hazare protest site. All I said was there was no need to shoo away politicians, especially if they come to support you, lend support to you, because the political system requires the participation of politicians to reform it. Don't shoo them away, don't treat them as pariahs, don't act self-righteously. But I supported, I was there, and I still support Anna Hazare movement. I don't think the civil society is assuming too much right. I think this is the vibrancy of our democracy, that this is civil society what you call civil society. You know, hitherto we have had little NGOs dependent on international donor agencies or government grants calling themselves civil society organizations. Today, both in the Anna Hazare movement and even much more in the Baba Ramdev movement, you see the real face of civil society in all its diversity and in all its vibrancy.
But Madhu, the diversity also includes Sadhvi Ritambara.
So, yes, of course, she is part of civil society, just as CPM is, just as Maoists are. If Maoists came to support Anna Hazare movement or Baba Ramdev, I would not discredit it simply because they are Maoists. Similarly, if RSS or BJP come to support an anti-corruption movement, it means they have to also be prepared to clean their own house, put their own house in order. Would you rather that the RSS only worked on divisive agendas? Would you rather they only talked communalism? Or would you rather they join the anti-corruption movement?
What would you say to Shabnam Hashmi? What would you say to Shabnam Hashmi, who suggested that divisiveness was being taken to this platform as well? We haven't heard from her how she substantiates it.
I think Shabnam will have to regret such an irresponsible statement because she is going too far and being wild completely. Because this group, that the lakhs who had gathered or the thousands who had gathered, were trained to be peaceful, which is why nobody broke into violence. It's so many thousand people, it's Baba Ramdev or anybody else.
Dushyant trying to say something. Dushyant, go ahead.
I'm sorry, this you saw.
They were trained to be peaceful in Ayodhya, Barsha. Remember that in night.
I'm sorry, in this case, they did no harm to anybody. They did not even defend themselves with violence. There was no counter-violence. And I saw Ramdev give message after message that the group, the masses who had gathered there must stay peaceful, just as Anna Hazare remained committed to non-violence.
Madhu, you're saying that even if this was an RSS VHP linked event, so what? That's also what L.K. Advani said in his interview to me
I'm saying
today.
I welcome. No, I would go so far as to say if BJP, RSS take attention away from communalism and divisive agendas and come to an agenda which unites the rich and the poor, the rural and the urban, the north and south, it unites citizens. They come to follow citizens. I am very happy. I'd rather they put their attention in these causes than in some of the negative agendas that they pursue occasionally.
Now, the BJP is at a dharna right now at Rajghat. We're going to bring you those pictures. We've been bringing you those pictures, and we'll dip into that as soon as we can. Suhail Seth now joining us. We will go back to Shabnam Hashmi. Shabnam Hashmi says there was a communal agenda and an aim. She hasn't yet elaborated on what the proof for saying this is. Dushyant Dave is questioning the entire appropriation of political authority by what has come to be known as civil society, and saying it had become an absurd situation, it had become a law and order problem. Do you believe that the BJP is exaggerating the point when it compares what happened last night to the emergency? Or do you believe, in a sense, it's trivializing history, drawing parallels to Jallianwala Bagh and the emergency?
I think, you know, with all due respect to Rajiv here, I don't think the emergency is quite the exact analogy, and one of their representatives on another channel, Swapan Dasgupta, said as much that it was hyperbole. But I want to move the needle. You know, Madhu was right, Kishore was right, saying that everyone has the right to be part of civil society. But the way this civil society movement was engendered in the past few weeks or months was it would be politics neutral and it would be religion neutral. When that needle moved, and it moved to a perception, so I'm not for a moment saying it is political or it is religious, but the perception was, with the presence of Sadhvi Ritambara and with all the other stuff that's going on, with RSS actually asking its cadres to go take part. My fear is that you've moved away from parliamentary democracy and you've moved to the streets, which, by the way, is not a bad thing. But is this the way you're going to get laws passed in Parliament? A. B. I'd be very worried if I were the BJP. Because
Why?
what I believe is
That
the
Baba
BJP
Ramdev has taken his place, taken their place.
No, I think the BJP has outsourced its opposition role to Baba Ramdev. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I can't answer. It's for the BJP to answer. But as a citizen who casts his or her vote, the citizen must question, is this the brand of democracy we wish to have? If the citizen believes that the brand of democracy must
Are
be
you
done...
saying Baba Ramdev has been a more effective opposition than the BJP?
No, I'm not saying that. So don't
You're
put...
kind
no,
of saying that.
No, I'm saying that today the BJP is following an agenda set by Baba Ramdev. They could have actually gone on a satyagraha before Baba Ramdev, in a manner of speaking. The same gentlemen and ladies could have actually gone on a fast at Rajghat. All I'm saying
So
is...
Baba Ramdev is setting their agenda.
I would imagine
Yeah.
he's setting the agenda perceptually. I don't know Baba Ramdev, and I don't know, the leadership.
You have a point, we understand, and most of the people are keen that BJP should have carried on this crusade. The fact remains, the problem is with the Congress party, because the space of the opposition was usurped and ignored by the ruling dispensation. We took up the issue of the 2G scam, the BJP was ignored, the Supreme Court intervened, and they went to jail. We took up the case of the Commonwealth Games. The voice of the BJP was ignored, and it was the intervention of the High Court and the Supreme Court that things came. It was the BJP which took up the cause of this appointment of the Central Vigilance Commissioner. Sushma Swaraj wrote on the file. The Prime Minister chose to overlook it, and it was the Supreme Court which intervened.
By the way,
my only submission here is that the BJP always took up all these causes. The ruling dispensation did not recognize the space of the opposition, and when that does not happen, and there is an environment of corruption around the country, there are civil society activists who take that space. So again, a reminder, all this what is being talked today has been taken up by the Bharatiya Janata Party, and still today Bharatiya Janata Party is at the forefront.
Whatever Rajiv has said, I only have one thing that I must spark here. My fear, not my fear, my concern is that tomorrow someone will represent the impoverished and forgotten farmer. Someone will represent, water security or food security. How are you going to run a government or a democracy in this manner? Are laws actually going to be made at gunpoint or held to ransom? I don't think that's the way.
Where are we headed from here?
This is what I've said.
I have to interrupt both
the
of you.
political space of the opposition. If the ruling dispensation chooses to derecognize.
But here's my question. If the 4 ministers and the cabinet secretary hadn't gone to the airport and they hadn't met Baba Ramdev and they hadn't negotiated with Baba Ramdev, you know what the headline on NDTV 24/7 would be? Government obstinate refuses to negotiate with civil society. So do and you're damned, don't and you're damned.
Don't and you're damned even more. I think the problem is that the Congress did not take a consistent position. It tried to do both. It tried to be both cajoling and coercive at the same time. Baba Ramdev, by the way, is having another press conference. This time he's saying he tried to make an entry into Uttar Pradesh and he was stopped. Let's listen in just for a bit before we go back to Shabnam, Madhu and Dushyant.
आज अभी पत्रकार वार्ता के बाद यही पतंजलि योगपीठ में ये जिसाला में शुरू हो जाएगा और संख्या बढ़ने के बाद में इसको बड़े हॉल में भी जो कि यहाँ फेज 2 में बना हुआ वहाँ शिफ्ट किया जा सकता है। मैं उत्तराखंड, पश्चिम उत्तर प्रदेश के लोगों से आह्वान करना चाहूंगा जो इस संघर्ष में साथ और समर्थन देना चाहते हैं वो कल सुबह से यहाँ पतंजलि योगपीठ में ही आ सकेंगे। और एक बात मैंने अभी टीवी चैनलों के ऊपर देखा कि कांग्रेस की ओर से एक बयान आ रहा है कि कुछ लोग लोकतांत्रिक संस्थाओं को नुकसान पहुंचाना चाहते। यह बहुत दुर्भाग्य की बात है कि लोकतंत्र के शिखर पर बैठे लोग अपने लोकतांत्रिक और संवैधानिक दायित्वों को निष्ठापूर्वक नहीं निभा पा रहे हैं और उसी से देश नरक बन रहा है। हम तो अपने वैयक्तिक, सामाजिक और आध्यात्मिक दायित्वों को निभाते हुए लोकतांत्रिक दायित्वों को निभाने के लिए जिन देशवासियों ने जिन लोगों को नियुक्त किया था, वो जब उस अपने कर्तव्य में विफल हो रहे हैं, तब पूरे समाज की ओर से हम उनको आगाह कर रहे हैं कि आप यदि अपना लोकतांत्रिक दायित्व नहीं निभा सकते तो फिर सत्ताओं पर बैठे क्यों? क्या देश को बेचने के लिए और लूटने के लिए? और
All right, Baba Ramdev holding his third press conference today, talking about how he tried to enter Uttar Pradesh and he was stopped. I do need to take a quick break. We'll take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll ask our panelists, are Baba Ramdev and the UPA equally to blame for this fiasco? Or has the UPA's handling of this made Baba Ramdev into a hero? That and more on the other side. Who's responsible for the fiasco that unfolded in the Ram Leela Maidan? Is it Ramdev himself, whom the government claims actually signed a letter promising to call off his fast at a designated time and then reneged from that promise? His close aide Devendra Sharma on the program telling us earlier that was just a ploy to hoodwink the government. Why does Ramdev have the UPA all in a twist? Is the UPA, to borrow a phrase from Baba Ramdev, now waiting to exhale? Where is the UPA? Where is the Congress? Why is it silent as the country debates? Let me go back to Shabnam Hashmi. Shabnam, your comment seems to have outraged many because you still haven't elaborated on the basis for your accusation that there was a communal agenda in what Baba Ramdev was doing. Yes, there was Sadhvi Ritambra on the stage. That's caused a major trigger. Yes, he may have had links with the VHP and the RSS. But Madhu Kishore is asking, so what? What would you say to her?
बरखा 2006 में जब पहली बार हमने एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस की थी और कहा था कि संघ का टेरर नेटवर्क है, तो उस वक्त भी यही सवाल पूछा गया था। उसके बाद 4 साल लगे प्रूफ करने में कि संघ का टेरर नेटवर्क कितना पूरे हिंदुस्तान में फैला हुआ है। और जिस वक्त ये चीज सामने आनी शुरू हुई कि सुनील जोशी के खून में सबके हाथ रंगे हैं, उस वक्त एकदम से बीजेपी को करप्शन याद आ गया। दूसरी बात ये कि जिस वक्त गुजरात में when we said that there are a number of fake encounters, we were also told that these statements are obnoxious.
But how do
the time proved that.
How do you substantiate what you're saying today? And are you then saying, Shabnam, are you then saying that the Congress was wrong? Can I put it to you differently? Are you then saying that given your views on Baba Ramdev, the Congress was wrong to negotiate with him for 5 days?
Congress and the government was absolutely wrong in negotiating with him. I think it is the most foolish thing which a government could have done to send 4 senior ministers to receive him and the Prime Minister to appeal to that man. You see, these people are forcing the country into anarchy. Our constitution is being attacked. क्या हमें एक ऐसी सिचुएशन चाहिए जैसे पाकिस्तान में मुल्लाओं के हाथ में पूरा मुल्क है, हिंदुस्तान हम इन स्वामियों को और इन बाबाओं को दे दें क्या? Do we want that kind of an India?
So he'll come in there before I go to Madhu. So he'll come in there. Are we putting too much in the hands of religious leaders? Should religious leaders be getting involved in political issues?
No, ideally religious leaders should be involved in religion. But the brand of politics has become such that in the garb, I believe, in the garb of civil society, anything goes. So it's not whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but what you will do in the process is you will remove the absolute virtues of impartiality and you will divide a nation whether you like it or not. So people will take polarized views and will have a perspective which will actually make India a banana republic, and we don't want that.
But where is the debate? And Rudy, come in here as well before I go to Dushyant and Madhu. Where is the debate on the actual proposals that Baba Ramdev is making? Some of them are unobjectionable. Bring back the black money. We all agree. Capital punishment for economic offences.
Demonetizing 1,000 rupee and 500 rupee notes.
Isn't this entering the realm of absurdity?
Let's not give the credit of Baba being very technical about economics and financial instruments. But at the same time, he took up a cause which was basically to start with talking about black money. And I think he should have focused just remaining on black money. So he made his agenda far more than he could handle, and I think that is where all these problems arose. But even if the Congress or the government had some intent, for example, the government is admitting that there is black money stashed across. The Supreme Court did say, let's have the list published. The government couldn't have come out with a list.
But do you see Baba Ramdev as apolitical? I think that's the point. He said, Sohail, you don't see him as apolitical.
No, for a simple reason, it's not as if Baba Ramdev told me that he's political or apolitical.
But you saw some key leaders of the BHP and the RSS.
Willy-nilly what happened, Barkha, was, and again, you can't exclude those people also from civil society. What happened was, look at the difference. Anna Hazare's movement, to my mind, as an observer, was bottom-up. It fired the imagination.
But you were critical of that movement as well.
No, I was critical of the process, not the cause. Here, as Rudy rightly said, the cause is relevant. But this is not the methodology, because the methodology itself is flawed. A, B. The problem here, or to my mind, the difference here was that you had the RSS almost convert this with some political coloring by instructing their cadres to join the movement. Does the RSS have the right to do that? Of course it does. Does the BJP have the right to support someone like that? Of course it does. All I'm saying is that it then moves the needle away from being politics, gender or religious neutral, and it then polarizes society, and for a cause such as this, you needn't have had this polarization.
Dushyant, I want you to respond to what Rudy said in the beginning of the program, that if Arundhati Roy is free in a sense to question the Indian state, if Gautam Navlakha, when he stopped from going into Jammu and Kashmir, the Liberals will get up and say it's absurd. When Arun Jaitley and Sushma Swaraj, who denied entry into Jammu and Kashmir, the law and order argument did not at that point wash with the BJP. Can we selectively cherry pick when we decide that something is a breach of law and order, or are all of these decisions not intrinsically political? And that is why when you cite the law, many people are not convinced, because the Congress's decision to engage with Ramdev was political and the Congress's decision to evict him was political.
Barkha, you are right. What Rudy says has a point. But please understand, Madhu Limaye's judgment of the Supreme Court in 1970 also involved a political man and political issues. And yet the Supreme Court said that the decision of the government to keep him out of a particular area was constitutionally valid. Now here, with a lack of people who would have swelled to 2 or 5 or 10 lakhs with the support of RSS and a clear support of BJP, then you were likely to confront a situation which would have resulted in a serious, law and order situation.
Why do you feel that? Where did you sense the beginnings? Dushyant, where did you sense the beginnings of the law and order problem?
Beginning, you don't have to sense it. As I said, the law is that you don't need an overt act. You just need a perception. And that perception is of the person who takes a decision to impose 144. It's not your or my perception. A man who has to control the peaceful life in city, if he comes to a conclusion that there is likelihood of serious breach of tranquility tomorrow, I must act tonight, he's entitled to act at any point of time. I don't think that this is something which is justiciable. But let me respond to what Rudy very rightly said. Rudy says,
he has another question for you.
There were several issues that BJP raised, and they went to the Supreme Court and succeeded in Supreme Court, whether it is the Vigilance Commissioner or 2G. But all these issues were not raised by BJP frontally in Supreme Court. BJP is riding on the shoulders of so-called civil society, and these are the people who have brought the legal actions. They have succeeded.
So you agree with Sohail? You agree with Sohail that the BJP has outsourced the opposition place in a sense to Ramdev? Madhu, do you agree with that?
No.
Firstly, I would like to say that the Congress Party and people like Shabnam Hashmi are needlessly communalizing the issue. The South African movement, freedom movement, was led by Desmond Tutu, who is a bishop. Nobody said because he's religious, therefore he should be shunned. The Dalai Lama himself, the spiritual leader of the Tibetan people, has led the freedom movement. The point is, in this case, simply because somebody is wearing saffron, it's not as if Baba Ramdev came with a communal agenda. It's not. Wait, just let me finish, Shabnam. Let me finish. The point that I'm making is, let me finish.
Allow me to finish, madam. All right, you're all speaking together. Madhu first, then Shabnam.
Let me finish. The point that I'm making is this. Had either Baba Ramdev or Sadhvi given provocative speeches that were communal or said this is Hindu money versus Muslim money, Hindu corruption versus Muslim, or Congress versus BJP, I would have then taken Shabnam seriously.
Provocative statements. They
he
said Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata ki Jai.
Vande Mataram.
What is wrong with Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata ki Jai?
What are you arguing?
How do you understand?
Ma tujhe
I fail to
salam.
understand.
How is Vande Mataram?
Vande Mataram
Vande Mataram, Colonel.
When you destroyed the mosque
to Mother
Bharat Mata ki Jai is
Colonel and killed thousands of people in Gujarat. You are only making these statements for the purpose of taking advantage of the situation. You
Let
don't,
me
I don't
finish.
think you are serious about Bharat Mata or for that
no
matter.
way. You can't
All right, let
shout
me
at
get in
people
here.
like that.
Let me get in here.
Finish.
Madhu, are you
Let
saying?
me finish.
Madhu, let me sum this
No,
up for you.
I'm not being allowed to finish
Okay,
a
Madhu, you
sentence.
have to quickly finish because I have other people
Yes,
waiting.
I will quickly
All right,
finish.
Madhu, yes.
The point that I'm trying to make is this. In this case, it is an issue affecting all parties. And BJP, even if it joins Baba Ramdev, would be a target of attack if, for example, it is no less corrupt. I see no reason why BJP can't be led by the nose by Baba Ramdev. It's an effete opposition party. If NAC, if Sonia Gandhi's agenda can be led by Harsh Mandar or Jean Drèze, I see no reason why Baba Ramdev can't lead the BJP by the nose because it has failed in its start.
I want to ask Rudy if he
Neither Harsh
accepts.
is there,
Shabnam,
nor
1 minute.
John
I just want to
Drèze
ask
is there.
Rudy if he accepts that the BJP's agenda is being led by Baba Ramdev. Shabnam, 1 second. Rudy, do you accept that?
It's absolutely individual is immaterial. The issue is what is most fundamental here. And the issue is what exactly the Bharatiya Janata Party took up was corruption. And corruption is what...
But everybody else managed to become the face
Doesn't
of those
matter.
campaigns,
Doesn't
whether it was Anna Hazare or Baba
Doesn't
Ramdev.
matter. At the end of the day, we still go along with that cause. Even a common man on the street, if it talks of corruption, the BJP would stand by it. It could be irrespective of individuals or organizations. How does it matter? If this country has been affected by that cause, we are all there to fight it.
Okay, Shabnam. Sohail, 1 second. Shabnam,
you were in power.
You're all shouting. You're all shouting. One by one. Shabnam, to you first.
Put your act together.
Shabnam.
Barkha, just two things. One, I again want to re-emphasize that the moment the Sun Terror started coming out,
What is
BJP
this Sun Terror you are talking about, ma'am? You are criminalizing the issue. You want this country to be in flames. People like you who cast aspersions on a community or a society or a group are the people who want to...
Rudy, you can react after she makes a point.
People like, if you keep on making such statements, there are many people like us who would not accept this. Because there are many people like us who would not allow such statements to be made. There are incidental and communal statements being made by you because your own existence is questionable. Your own existence is questionable. And why do you cast aspersions on groups?
Okay, Shabnam,
Shabnam,
मैं आपसे दोबारा पूछना चाह रही हूँ. Ask you this again.
You are making bizarre
होता है और इनको कड़वा लग रहा है इस वक्त. मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि जब सन टेरर का बाहर आना शुरू हुआ तो इनको करप्शन याद आ गया. और दूसरी बात जो मैं कहना चाहती हूँ, ये जो सारी बात चल रही है कि बाबा रामदेव को बीजेपी ने ज्वाइन किया. बाबा रामदेव आरएसएस के थे, आरएसएस के रहेंगे.
आप इस देश में अफजल गुरु जो उच्चतम न्यायालय ने भी उसकी फांसी की सजा सुना दी है, उसके बारे में क्यों नहीं कहते? Why don't you speak about Kasab? Why don't you speak about Afzal Guru?
Sohail, I think what we are seeing,
symbols of terror in this country.
I want to put a deeper perspective on this, and I think the ferocity of the debate on this program that we're seeing right now underlines the churn. There's something happening to Indian society and there's a churn.
No, what I told you earlier is exactly what is evidenced. You are adopting hard lines based on religious views. So there is communalism, which is the underbelly of the movement that we just saw. Whether it is communalism which will harm or do good, I'm not getting into the debate. All I'm asking is, and you know, Madhu Kishore mentioned Desmond Tutu. Desmond Tutu led the Truth and Reconciliation movement in South Africa. That was important to heal a wounded society and bring fringe or disparate groups together. Here the issue is not new. Corruption hasn't erupted in India day before yesterday. It's been part of our DNA. So, Baba Ramdev, while he may have outlined a cause, I would have imagined that some members of civil society, not necessarily him, would have also outlined solutions.
But doesn't his agenda have to be inclusive and sensible?
No, I only want to ask one thing. If the government, and the government will, I hope, share the agreement in detail and the solutions that the government therefore provided, whether it's an ordinance, a law, because some of these things are bizarre. You cannot give capital punishment for people. I mean, ideally they should, but you know, it's not part of our legal system. So what Baba Ramdev did was...
it changes due process and proportionate punishment.
As Dushwant will agree, and perhaps Rudy will, Baba straddled the judiciary, the executive, and the political. That was the problem. He should have focused on one issue, like Annaji did, and then moved the needle forward.
Well, you see, I think I'm very much agreeable to what Suhail is saying. My only aspect is, if we keep the debate on, and the Congress party has chosen to keep the debate on, where they call Baba as a thug, and someone in the party prefers to call Osama bin Laden, who is a terrorist, as Osama Ji. As long as there are people in the political system who keep speaking this language, all this what you see, what you see on the screen today will keep on happening.
No, see, I don't remember who said Osama Ji, and you know, whether he, because I mean, even poor Obama was confused for Osama when Osama died. So that's a separate issue.
That's
I think the seriousness of the issue is only twofold, as Dushant and Madhu touched upon. One is this the brand of democracy we are now going to embrace? If we are, then we have to be prepared that civil society must be treated in a manner that is different. But the grave risks with that are that civil society will necessarily come with its own agenda, be it political, religious, or otherwise. If we are ready to embrace that, we must also then forewarn ourselves that there will be a systemic danger to the democracy that we practice. Parliament will be subsumed by street fights or street displays.
I just have a quick last question for Shabnam. Shabnam, many people have made the point that if the NSC can actually dictate agenda, why can't Anna Hazare or Baba Ramdev? The problem is, once you outsource legislative space, you can't cherry pick who represents it, then it's free for everybody, isn't it? And some people may make you ideologically comfortable, but everybody has that right, don't they?
No, one is that these, if you are talking about the bills which are being made, they are only drafts, and then finally, ultimately, it is the parliament which can make laws. It is not that these organizations or independently can make. They can make drafts which can be discussed by the larger people of this country, citizens. So I'm not disputing that people have the right to be associated. But the question is, no, let me finish. But the question is that people who are leading, they have to be spotless. When you have people who have acquired lands through grabbing, who have acquired islands in millions of pounds, I mean, you have all those questions.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there.
Again, a charge which is not substantiated. There is a whole government which can go into that. The government had all the time to go into all that allegations. Why couldn't the government ever find anything?
I'm afraid we'll have to leave it here.
Only when he's gone on a fast that you have all these charges, while all those 4 days when he was negotiating and all the 4 ministers were going and talking to him, there was no such charge made against that.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point. Dushant Dave and Suhail Seth, 10 seconds to both of you. Do you concede that there is an ineptitude to the handling of this, Dushant, that has... Yes, quickly, Dushant, 10 seconds.
Just a sec. Barka, RSS is as much part of our society as every other group. I think we can't really object to it. But then they must come out openly and say that we are behind this agitation by Baba Ramdev. That's the end of the matter.
Fair enough. Suhail,
can't hide
Suhail, wrap this up for us.
I don't think it's ineptitude. I think a lesson has been learnt. A lesson has been learnt that placating members of civil society of a certain hue is not the answer to solving India's multiple and complex problems. Corruption has to be solved through enactments in Parliament, not through street, protestations. Because then they will be up and led to charges of the kind that
So it's a dangerous trend. Take the good things from it, but don't get carried away.
Which to be fair, I'm always knocking the government. I think, you've got to be fair. You've got to realize that everyone is then focused on them to say, oh, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? If you put people in positions which are very hardened, you will always have results of dismay or perhaps hope.
When are you going on a hunger fast?
I'm not. I mean, I should, but I'm not.
We'll leave it there. So here's Seth, Rajiv Pratap, Rudy, Madhu Kishwar, Shabnam Hashmi, Dushant Dave. Thank you. This debate has only just begun. It isn't ending anytime soon. But for the moment, we've got to say good night. The BJP is continuing to hold a dharna of its own at the Rajghat. We'll bring you updates on that. But for now, have a great evening. Thanks for watching.